Hi everybody, this is Alchemist2 and I'm back again with another book review. I just recently read David and Goliath by Malcom Gladwell. I have also read The Tipping Point, which is another fantastic book about how tiny things make a difference, and this is written on the same aegis, I do believe, the same kind of synopsis, and there are some really excellent illustrations here, including David versus Goliath, and he talks about this basketball team that is absolutely a wreck, and they just don't know how to do anything right. And this coach from India who knows nothing but cricket, he takes them and he makes them into a team that he basically does is he trains them how to play soccer instead of basketball. And this really odd kind of provocative strategy works. And talks about Martin Luther King Jr. and let's see, I was trying to remember this one woman who was growing up in Ireland. Well, she was in Ireland during the IRA protests and marches, and she was part of this guild where they would try to take all these food and whatnot in their prams to feed the poor, because there were a lot of people in Ireland at that time that were very poor, and it actually worked. And a lot of the people who took part of this revolution say that a lot of the mothers actually had dynamite and armaments in their prams, and it was really funny. And there's quite a bit that he describes in the book, including the statistic that there are a lot of leaders that have grown up in a situation where they lost their father at a young age, and it even mentions Barack Obama, and I thought, I didn't know that. But James Madison did, George Washington did, I think he mentions Van Buren, I don't know if it's Van Buren, John Quincy Adams, Bill Clinton. Oh shoot, he had about 15 people, but I can't remember who they all were. I know that a lot of the many of them were presidential candidates, or they were presidents, so I thought, fascinating. He talks about why bigger isn't always better, and how even smaller, very intimate, can be very crushing as well, because he talks about school sizes or class sizes and the inverted U curve and how that works, and it's always an inverted bell curve, and it goes on ad infinitum either way. And he has a really good illustration of that within the book, and I don't know where it is, so I can't probably really find it right at this point in time as I look at it. And the diagrams in this book are very, 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 very illustrative of just everything that all the points that he's making in his research. And to me, it just shows that he's done his research right. I love charts and graphs. It just gives me something more solid to look at, and it shows me the evidence of his work. And it also talks about three-strike system, and how there was this program, a rehabilitation program that this judge implemented, and how murders and thefts started to go down within this particular community that was actually known for its gun violence. And I thought, maybe they should try this in Chicago. But people in Chicago should read this book, and people in Indianapolis should read this book, because we have some per capita murders that are going up, unfortunately. Hopefully they can fix that with a program that's similar to Three Strikes, but not Three Strikes, something a little bit different. Rehabilitation program. It's all about Maslow's hierarchy of need. I didn't think I would be going back to that, but Maslow's hierarchy of need. The basic needs are food, shelter, clothing, but one of the most essential and elementary and essential I just said essential, and pivotal needs for all of us. It's vital would be acceptance or understanding from others, socially so, because we're all connected as this great human family. But it's easier said than done, because a lot of us we're kind of we don't know if we should go out beyond our comfort zones for fear that in the process we might be getting hurt ourselves. And that's the thing, because there was a time, I think maybe back in the 60s, where you could pick up a hitchhiker and not have to worry about it. In this day and age, you have to be really cautious, because you don't know if that person is an axe murderer. You could never tell if that person is doped up on some kind of drug that they might have been crashing from, and they start tweaking, and you never know. You just have to be very cautious in this world. But he speaks about how the whole underdog thing really shouldn't faze us. It shouldn't shock us, because it's something that happens a lot more often than we know. And personally, I think that I'm living out my own underdog story currently. No, I didn't have the best of childhoods, and not at home. I mean, my home life has always been exceptional. But when I attended school, elementary school, junior high, and high school were all hell. I mean, they were just terrible. I have no other word for it. They were absolutely terrible. And there was a point in time in middle school that I didn't know if I was going to survive. I seriously didn't. And there were times in high school I wanted to commit suicide, and I didn't know if my existence was going to make one whit of difference. But my mother and my father, they talked me out of that, and they told me it's not going to do anybody any good, and we would miss you, and you mean a lot to us. And just knowing that they love me, and we're in us, and we always have been, and I still am with my own dad, and we'll get through it. It's just sometimes circumstances can work against you, but despite that, there's something called hope, and there's something called faith, and these things never ever ever are defeated. They continue. And that's one thing that I learned from this book, is perseverance, determination, vigilance. It's all about that. Hard work, sweat, blood, tears. All of that goes into overcoming whatever. And one of the things that I found that this can really overcome a person, because they're not really expecting this, is courtesy. Courtesy, kindness, generosity, honesty, humor, loyalty, let's see, the golden rule. Basically treating others the way you want to be treated. A lot of people do not expect this, and to them it may come as an unconventional act, especially in how rough and tumble society can be at times. That's why I mentioned it in my previous review of Talk to the Hand by Lynn Truss. It's the same kind of principle, I think. People need to learn how to be more polite, and that's why we have reform schools. This book gives just excellent illustrations on how just a little bit of unconventional thinking outside the box, can really benefit innumerable people and work in just an exponential amount of ways. I'm not really sure what else to say about this book other than I absolutely loved it, and I could not put it down. It was just absolutely fascinating, and I love Malcolm's work, and he's just, to me, he is he is a real inspiration because they did a piece on him on 60 Minutes. I don't know if any of you out there watch it like I do. I know I'm on 60 Minutes. Woo! Don't make fun of me. It's a good show. You'll learn something. But anyway, they did a interview with Malcolm, and he talks about his upbringing, and he even talks about himself in this book, which is really quite a good insight into his livelihood. He's kind of a hermit, though. He doesn't like seeing people. But I would love to meet him. I would just love to say, you know, your books really inspire me, and I love underdogs like you, and you're one of my muses, so keep on doing what you're doing, and don't stop researching, because knowledge is power, my friend. And I would just continue exhorting and encouraging him in that way. And it's just a fundamentally sensational book, and I'm hoping that at some point in time I can also read Outliers, because from what I've heard, it's probably the most influential books he's ever written. But this is up there too with Blink, and Blink was the book I couldn't think of. Blink and Tipping Point, both really good books, and I highly, 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 highly recommend them. So please pick them up when you can, and maybe you'll realize how important statistics are, and how math can actually be used to help us in illustrating how these concepts actually work. And it's all about being creative and innovative and doing something new and different, and not thinking in the traditional ways. It's okay to shake things up a little bit. It's not a bad thing. And it actually spoke about how Goliath may have had some kind of pituitary problem, how he was, how people with giantism, their vision is affected because of growth, how big they grow and how fast they grow. It was really just so very intriguing, and it made sense to me how that would work. And it just spoke how he had a shield bearer going after him, and why would he need a shield bearer? He was very inept. I think he just was a lumbering lummox, and it was the battle, I think, was over before it began. And the ballistics expert said that the slingers were the ballistics expert that Malcolm interviewed actually said that it had the speed of I forget how many caliber of a bullet, but it was pretty pretty impressive. And the speed at which it was flung was like a bullet through the head, basically. And the slingers back in that time, it was just known for they had a hair's breadth of accuracy. And I thought, holy Moshe! It was just unbelievable. It's really fantastic writing. It just pulls you in, and you want to keep knowing more, and it just gives you more insight into the David and Goliath story. And it makes more sense now. So even ballistically speaking, and he's speaking my language there, even though, you know, I'm not really into guns. I've never even shot one, but just the whole idea of ballistics, I don't know why. It's always just captured my imagination, just like the whole idea of flight. Flight's the same way. I just love anything. I enjoy figuring out how things work, and I love seeing illustrations of how everything is a blueprint, basically. I love to see blueprints. I love to see charts and graphs. So this book is definitely my cup of tea, and it explains race and shootings, and how that was changed with this particular system, and schools, and intimate settings with schools, bigger class sizes, smaller class sizes, and other things in between that were really quite intriguing stories in and of themselves. So I would definitely pick it up and read it. And even if you haven't seen that 60 Minutes interview, watch that sometime, because I think you'll get a lot of insight from that as well. And it's a good companion to reading the book, too.